Welcome to Short Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of Revell's Shuttle, Enterprise and 747. Scale is 1 to 144. In this part I'm going to be starting the build and looking at the canopy first of all before moving on to the fuselage of the shuttle. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. The first job is to mask off the canopy. It's a fairly simple process on this one. The frame is only some lines going up the canopy. And I'm using Revell Aquacolor 06 Tab Black for this. Now, I wasn't sure on what colour to paint the framework. I've looked at a few photographs and some of them, the framework is in white, some are in black. So I've opted for the black just because it's easier to paint. That's the main decision. I think the white framework was probably when the shuttle was under prototype conditions, testing conditions, and it may have moved over to some other material when it was being in service properly as such. I'm not 100% sure, it's mostly guesswork, but black is the colour I've gone for. At the rear of the aircraft, there's a little tailgate thing that has to be made up, and that's just two halves sandwiched together. And now that brings me to the fuselage. And what I'm pointing out here is just where I'm going to be placing the glue. I'm going to be cementing these in stages. I've dry fitted it a couple of times, and it's going to be difficult to get this all cemented in one go. So I'm taking it from the nose cone area first and just moving my way down the aircraft. And once I've got the nose cone in position, I'm just running a bit of cement down the same mark on the inside of the fuselage to bond the next part. The tail end, obviously, I'm going to leave to last. Because the nature, the shape of the fuselage for this build, it is difficult to get any clamps on it because you would just distort the plastic. So it's going to take a little bit of holding, waiting till this all sets. And lastly, the tail area of the aircraft. Now this part cannot actually be clamped up, so that's a bit of a blessing. Overall, it was quite a difficult piece to cement together with. I'm used to doing these things in stages anyway, that's nothing new for me, but because of the shape it was quite tricky. But before I was able to clamp everything up, the tailgate had to go in. Now this can be free moving, which I suggest you leave free moving for the next stage of the build. You will want to manoeuvre this around. So there's just two little location points for this to fit into, and be careful of any cement going onto it because you do want it to be free moving. So I'm just placing an F clamp right on the rear here. I'm able to do this because of the tail that gives it more of a rigid form, so I don't have to worry about putting too much pressure on it. It can hold. I wouldn't do this for the middle section, definitely not the nose section. This just gives me a little bit more room to handle the aircraft, and then it's just a normal clamp for the tail once I cement that into position. I should point out though, I did have to hold where my hand is now on the fuselage. I did have to hold that separately while the clamps were on to make sure that was all within line. And now I can turn my attention to the top of the fuselage. If I didn't make that clear, I should have said I only done the bottom part of the fuselage at this stage. So just wiping off any excess glue before I start. And this I had to hold for about 3 minutes until it bonded. Once the vertical lines on the canopy had dried, it was time to paint in the framework around the canopy or windscreen. That was done the same way with the vertical slats, and it was just a bit of tape around the edges, then painted in with the black. And also giving everything just a light sanding around the seams. This is not going to be the final sanding, it's just show me where I'm at with the seams and how much work I need to do on them. I really wasn't happy with the seam down the centre of the fuselage. It was too flexible, it was moving around even though it bonded, and I thought that can pop open. So what I've decided to do was take a piece of plastic card and strengthen that seam up. So I just one slot of plastic card, and I'll be running that down the seam of the fuselage. There is a couple of ridges inside, so I'll need to cut this strip of plastic card within the boundaries of that, so it's not encroaching on the ridge, because otherwise it would just lift up and bend, and then there'd be no point in placing the strengthening beam in. So it's just a simple case of marking it out and cutting the strip. And once I was happy with the fit, it was just a matter of placing these strengthening beams in, and all I done was put a little bit of cement along the seam and then press these strengthening parts into position. I don't often do this for models, but I do them when I'm building the Star Trek models, sometimes for pylons and things like that. This is a handy little tip for people to do. I just strengthen everything up. So now that they are in, I'm just resanding the seams again. This is the second sanding, again just to make sure that I'm happy with the alignment and everything is going okay. Now that everything's in, I can place in the canopy, and that just pops right in there without any fuss. I'm using some canopy glue here, and that is micro crystal clear that I'm using, and this prevents fogging of any clear parts, so it's quite a good little product to use. Next, I'm putting in a couple of bulkheads. I'm cutting off an area where the beam runs down just so everything sits flush. Now these are actually quite a tight fit. The instruction says fit them once you build the fuselage, but in retrospect I would probably have built them before placing the two halves together. I may have not had to strengthen up the joint that way, but this still works anyway. I mean, once the cement was in, I had to really push them in quite firmly to fit, more to the sides than to the actual top. There was about a 2mm gap, 1 to 2 mil gap from my cut, so it wasn't that, it was just the nature of the bulkheads, that they were really tight. So next is the back plate for the engine that goes on. Again, another tight fit, but once I aligned it, it went in easy enough. To go and add the bay doors. Now these can be free moving if you wish. There's a little location point on each end of the fuselage for it to pop in. These are another tight fit just to get them in. The lining up process though was a little bit tricky. If you're having these open, you'll probably want to build an interior, which there's definitely scope to do that. But I'm having it as a fixed bay, so I'm going to be gluing mine up. But because of that, the fit wasn't 100% brilliant. It took a lot of jigging around to get to work. You can see it there, the little gap right at the bottom there. This took quite a bit to work. I cemented these in 2 stages once more. I done the bottom first, got them in alignment, making sure that the top of the curve was the same alignment as obviously the fuselage. And again, this had to be held for quite a while for it to bond. Once I got the first one in place, the second one wasn't so bad, because I was able to line up the second bay door with the first one obviously, and that bonded a lot better. And this is where I'll end part 2. This is going to take a little bit of drying time. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds. If you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.